friends, are you happy? Have you ever heard of the saying, the way to a man's heart is through his stomach? So which of these drinks do you think would help improve his mood and make him smarter? This blended, sweetened, caffeinated beverage or my brain boosting blended shake? Now this is sweetened coffee with creamer. And this is a shake I make my family every day. It's made out of berries and green leaves. I'm sure you've heard that coffee is a longevity drink, but not the way that people drink it. Did you know that dairy creamer in this coffee has casein protein that actually binds a beneficial polyphenol called chlorogenic acid? So if you're drinking coffee for its longevity benefits and you add some kind of dairy, well, you basically don't absorb it. Pooping out longevity molecules doesn't help with longevity. 62% of Americans, they drink coffee every day. Our dementia rates are skyrocketing and our longevity data really sucks, and it's also artificially inflated because people are on a ton of prescription drugs. But there's no prescription drug that treats dementia. And when it comes to mental health, we're struggling to treat depression despite spending billions of dollars on antidepressant drugs. But the thing that many people don't realize is that food can change your serotonin levels. Serotonin is known as the happy hormone. People with dementia have lower serotonin levels in their brains, which is thought to contribute to symptoms like memory loss, depression, and aggression. But we know that brain serotonin isn't the only factor in dementia, as antidepressants have proven ineffective in treating dementia. This suggests that other systems in the body play a crucial role in your cognitive health. If eating can help you feel better, then why do so many people overlook the number one organ responsible for eating, your gut, which has a profound impact on your body's serotonin, mood, and learning ability? My brain boosting shake has 4 types of berries: blueberries, black raspberries, strawberries, and cherries. Why do you think I combine those 4 berries, besides the fact that it tastes really good? It's because they have both antioxidants and soluble fiber that would boost my serotonin. Soluble fiber increases serotonin levels, while antioxidants are protecting the brain from the oxidative stress of the calories in this shake. You need both to prevent dementia. This is why taking psyllium husk doesn't promote health, even though you can get a bowel movement. Hence, it's important that you understand how a healthy gut serotonin level can help keep a healthy brain happy. For years, we focused on increasing brain serotonin to address mental health. However, scientists are beginning to question the role of boosting brain serotonin with pharmacology. It's like everything else in life. Are we changing the chemistry of our brain, which then compensates for our modern day interventions, and then we discover unintended consequences in the future? I don't know. Now, this isn't medical advice, so don't change your medications just because you heard something that I said on my YouTube channel or anybody else saying anything on social media. Please see your own medical doctor for personalized medical advice. Just like blood sugar, the relationship between serotonin and your brain health is actually quite complex. Did you know that the majority of your body's serotonin is not actually in your brain, but it's in your gut? Your gut serotonin levels have a profound effect on your brain's thoughts, mood, and ability to learn. Remember how you felt with your first crush? Those butterflies in your stomach made you feel excited and happy. Kind of the same feeling you can get going downhill in a roller coaster, right? How did you feel after Thanksgiving or Christmas dinner? Some people call it a food coma. Bloating, nausea, tiredness, abdominal pain, that's all bad for the brain. Now, do you think you can learn well after that kind of a meal? What if you felt like that every day? Those feelings are from your vagus nerve, the longest and most powerful nerve that controls your brain, even though it's outside of your brain. Your vagus nerve can mess up your entire day when your stomach doesn't feel well. It can perk you up instantaneously after eating something pretty delicious. And sometimes your brain thinks it's pretty delicious, but your gut feels terrible after eating that food. Who do you think is going to win? Your vagus nerve, right? There are lots of things that you can do to keep your vagus nerve happy. And it starts with eating foods that propel your gut serotonin. And that's why I eat this shake and I give it to my family on a regular basis to keep their gut serotonin in a healthy level. This keeps our vagus nerves happy, so we have less mood problems in the home. When your brain is happy, you're sharp and productive. And people often often say happiness starts inside. And I believe it starts inside your tiny little cells that make up your entire body, including your gut and your brain. Have you heard of the chemical imbalance theory? I agree that happiness is a reflection of the right chemicals in balance, but it's not the way that people think. And that's because we are literally a biochemical machine. And everything we do and eat, including the foods that we eat and drink, to the air that we breathe, to the muscles that we move or don't move, and the interactions that we have with our environment and our people, changes the chemistry of our body and our brain. Chemical reactions keeps the batteries on in your body. And if it didn't, then you wouldn't be around. And that's the difference between being alive and being a rock. Now in life, there's so many factors that we can't control, whether it's the air pollution we breathe or someone else's bad behavior. There's one thing that we absolutely can't control, and that's what we eat. And that's why parents struggle with getting kids to eat their veggies, because that is one thing that children have absolute control over, what goes in their mouth. Now, as a toddler, one of my kids ate only white colored food. And then when he was small, I remember the first time I put something green on his plate, the kid had a fit. I kid you not. It was a broccoli that was 1 centimeter in length. And my child started gagging. He was crying. He was whining. He was screaming. And the thing is, he didn't even eat it. It didn't even touch his lips. It was left on the plate in a little tiny quarter. And I knew that at that point, there was a lot of work for me to do. Now, fast forward 14 years later, this kid, he loves herbs. And every week I wash all different kinds of fresh herbs for him to take to college. Dementia starts 18 years before people actually recognize that there's a problem. And the key to reducing our dementia rates is to do the hard work way before 18 years, more like 25 years before the problem starts. Now, people say that if you live in the US, you have a 42% chance of having dementia at the age of 55. I mean, with that kind of rate, half of us would be super rich if we invested in the stock market. So if you do the math, that means you have to start working to protect your brain at 30. It's literally like 5 years after your frontal lobe fully develops at the age of 25. Now, I'm no longer 30, and when I look back, all I remember are long, sleepless nights, either working in the hospital or taking care of an infant, eating really unhealthy, convenient processed foods, and just trying to get by in life. My brain was pretty messed up then. I was walking around every day with this brain fog. That couldn't have been healthy for me. So now I'm doubling down my efforts to make up for all those decades, because every year I'm getting closer to 55. And no matter our age, we all have control over the chemical inputs that we swallow. Now, of course, this isn't medical advice, so if you have any questions about anything that I talk about, please see your own medical doctor. But while you're waiting, you can eat some brain-boosting foods like blueberries that are in my shake. Blueberries have literally been shown to help improve cognitive memory. Now, to understand how the foods in my shake boost your brain health, then you need to understand the gut-brain connection. 90 to 95% of your body's serotonin is actually made in your gut, which doesn't cross the blood-brain barrier. Complex, isn't it? Gut serotonin, however, interacts with your vagus nerve. There are receptors on your vagus nerve in the gut lining, like 5-HT3 and 5-HT4 receptors. The vagus nerve then sends signals to the brain, influencing your mood, anxiety, and cognitive function. The brain then interprets vagus nerve signals, which affects your serotonin production in your Raphe Nuclei, where the brain serotonin is made. And this then regulates your mood, your sleep, and your cognition. Now, when your gut serotonin levels are well balanced, the brain receives positive signals, leading to improved mood and reduced stress. If gut serotonin is low or dysregulated, it can contribute to anxiety, depression, and brain fog. I knew a doctor who threw up before every medical school test. Medical school is 4 years, folks, and we would get several tests in a week. That's a lot of emesis. Testing made that doctor really anxious. That's the brain making the gut sick. So the input goes both ways. In essence, your vagus nerve acts as a messenger between what's happening in your gut and your brain. And when you have healthy gut serotonin levels, your vagus nerve keeps you calm and relaxed. This actually lowers your cortisol level or your stress hormone to reduce inflammation. This helps prevent anxiety. However, if your gut serotonin is imbalanced, The vagus nerve can send negative signals, leaving you with poor mood, irritability, and sadness. Ultimately, we know that a healthy gut microbiome keeps the brain happy. Irritable bowel leads to an irritable brain. I know nobody wants gut inflammation, and I know when my guts are inflamed, I feel like throwing up, which is a horrible feeling. As a kid, I remember how vomitus burns your throat and your nose. It would make me sweat and my heart race. That's all your vagus nerve. And that's why I eat foods rich in fiber, specifically soluble fiber, which is a prebiotic to help calm my vagus nerve. Prebiotic foods feeds good microbes in your gut like lactobacillus and bifidobacteria. These bacteria then ferment soluble fiber into short-chain fatty acids like butyrate, propionate, and acetate. Short-chain fatty acids stimulate your own gut cells, called enterochromaffin cells, to make serotonin, which is critical for the gut to contract and move food along, called peristalsis. Serotonin is a powerful, smooth muscle stimulator in your intestines, which ensures proper bowel movements. It takes muscle and energy to move that poop through your intestines. There's muscle lining your entire gastrointestinal tract, from your esophagus to your stomach to your small bowel to your large bowel. Those muscles need to contract and relax to help you digest and move food. And unfortunately, you don't have voluntary control over those muscles, and many drugs can interfere with the movement of those muscles. Let's start with anticholinergic medications that block parasympathetic signals. They slow digestion, they cause constipation or delayed gastric emptying. So this is why antihistamines like diphenhydramine, promethazine, tricyclic antidepressants like amitriptyline, bladder medications like oxybutynin, and some muscle relaxant slows motility, causes bloating, constipation, and gastroparesis.
Hi friends! I am so thrilled that you want to take charge of your health and take charge of your food. Now, I know nutrition can be complex, but it doesn't have to be. And I'm here to support you in this lifelong journey. So if you point your camera app to this QR code, it'll take you to a link for a free handout that I created just for you. And if you like it, if you want to see other handouts, please go to the link in my show notes, and then you can leave me your feedback on what I could do to help you in your journey. Okay, back to the video now.
If you're on opiates for pain, that reduces your vagus nerve stimulation in your gut, that decreases peristalsis, that prevents wave-like muscle contractions. They also reduce your enteric nervous system activity, leading to opiate-induced constipation. Drugs such as morphine, oxycodone, fentanyl, codeine, hydrocodone, they all cause severe constipation, bloating, delayed gastric emptying. Dopamine agonists, they overstimulate or suppress vasal reflexes. Antipsychotics and anti-nausea drugs can either slow motility to cause constipation or overstimulate motility, causing diarrhea and cramping. Such examples are like antipsychotics like haloperidol or olanzapine, or nausea medications like metoclopramine, prochlorperazine. The effects are unpredictable, and they can cause either slowed or excessive gut movement. Some beta blockers and calcium channel blockers, they reduce vagal nerve function, leading to weaker gut contractions. Beta blockers are drugs like propranolol, metoprolol, and calcium channel blockers are drugs like verapamil and diltiazem. This is why they can cause mild constipation to slow digestion. Now remember, this isn't medical advice. These are well-known side effects published, and you can find this online. So if you're on any of these medications and you're struggling with your gut, talk to your own medical provider. There are many ways in which they can help you. And this is also why it's important to think of your gastrointestinal muscles like your biceps. If you don't use it, you lose it. Most people, they don't appreciate their gastrointestinal muscles until they have a problem. And usually it's either a problem with pooping or a problem with swallowing. Your digestive muscles are controlled by your vagus nerve. And that's also why a person who is paraplegic, when they have injured their spine, they can't regulate their bowel movements. It takes nerve input to get any muscle moving. And this is why eating is such a stressful activity. You're actually exercising your gastrointestinal tract every time you swallow anything, even though you don't consciously know it. Contraction and relaxation of any muscle in your body requires chemical input. And this is also why when you struggle with constipation, you may break out in a sweat. Pooping is literally a workout when you don't have the right consistency. And when you are straining because of constipation, you are doing a Valsalva Maneuver in which you hold your breath to increase your abdominal pressure. This actually activates your vagus nerve to overreact because your vagus nerve also innervates your heart and your lungs. And doing this can cause your blood vessels to dilate, which drops your blood pressure while slowing your heart rate at the same time. This doesn't sound good, does it? It isn't. This is a recipe for your brain to pass out because it reduces blood flow to your brain. And before you pass out, some people just get a little lightheaded. They may feel nausea or feel weak. They can break out in a cold sweat, have blurred vision, tingling or numbness in their hands and feet, feel dizzy like you're gonna faint, and sometimes you actually do pass out. Can you believe that all of this is controlled by your vagus nerve? So the input on serotonin on your vagus nerve should not be underappreciated. Serotonin acts directly on the vagus nerve, which then sends signals to the brain about digestion. Now, when there's excess serotonin, it triggers nausea and vomiting. Serotonin interacts also with your immune cells to regulate inflammation in the gut. And imbalances in gut serotonin are linked to inflammatory bowel disease and irritable bowel syndrome. You can imagine that if you have too much serotonin, this can lead to diarrhea, where too little can cause constipation. How many of you have spent nights cramming for a test, enjoying that sugary, caffeinated beverage that makes you feel alert and perky for a short period, only to crash and to forget what you studied a week later? So every time you take a stimulant, whether it's legal like caffeine and nicotine, prescribed or illegal, you will affect your serotonin producing brain cells. But you can change your brain serotonin without even eating or drinking any foods. Now, my friend says she gets happy just by making her morning coffee. She doesn't even need to drink it. That's a placebo effect, which occurs when a person experiences a positive effect from an inactive substance or treatment simply because they believe it will help. If someone believes a sugar pill relieves pain, they might actually get pain relief due to the brain's expectation. You literally change the brain's chemistry with your thoughts. I have a doctor friend who feels better when she takes Tylenol, even though she didn't even swallow the Tylenol yet. This just proves that you don't have to spend money or eat anything to be happy. And the reason why we should all strive to be happy is because having a happy and grateful attitude in life is protective of dementia. The placebo effect is very powerful to change your thoughts. Big Pharma has trained us into discounting the placebo effect to sell their drugs. So a drug needs to prove that it has to be more powerful than our mindset to be sold. To me, this proves your thoughts are very powerful to help you prevent and fight diseases. Likewise, our thoughts can get us very sick. A pessimistic thought will cast negative doubt. That is a nocebo effect. So if you believe a pill causes headaches, you may get a headache even if it's a sugar pill. Oprah Winfrey once said, "You become what you believe." Our beliefs naturally always change and evolve depending on our experiences and our environment. Today, we are surrounded by negative thoughts, negative behavior. Turn on any social media app and the first thing that you will come up with are people being mean to other people. Have you heard the saying, monkey see, monkey do? If all we do is watch how poorly we treat each other, then how could we not have negative thoughts? How could these negative thoughts not affect how we perceive life and how we treat each other and even treat ourselves? In this day and age, it takes effort to be positive in this very negative world. And this is why it's super important that you control the chemical input with what you see with your eyes and eat with your mouths. Unfortunately, marketing has fooled us into seeking temporary solutions that will tax your health. Take, for instance, the explosion of caffeinated sugary drinks. Everybody wants to increase their performance with caffeine and sugar. I can tell you I never did that. I don't drink coffee. My brother, who graduated from Harvard, never did that. The two of us are just too cheap to ever want to spend that kind of money on a short-term fix. We are both in it for longevity, whether it's our financial investments or brain-boosting drinks. Now, the reason you perk up when you drink coffee is because caffeine blocks the action of adenosine. Normally, adenosine, a sleep-promoting neurotransmitter, inhibits the Raphe Nuclei activity to encourage sleep. The Raphe Nuclei makes brain serotonin. Now, caffeine blocks adenosine receptors, which prevents adenosine from inhibiting and indirectly increasing serotonin neuron activity, at least in the short term. And this is why caffeine makes you feel more alert and happy, but only temporarily. Unfortunately, many of you drink caffeinated beverages that will disrupt your sleep because you're either drinking too much of it or you're drinking it too late. You're also trying to wake up when you should be asleep. Well, when you disrupt your sleep, you're essentially preventing your brain from detoxing. Deep sleep is when your brain can clear toxins like beta amyloid and tau proteins. Now, I'm sure you know your genes partially determine how much caffeine you can tolerate. It's different for everybody. If you want to protect your sleep, avoid caffeine after 2 p.m. for sure. And if you're concerned about dementia, you have to protect your sleep. Reducing your sleep quality will increase your dementia risk over time as it prevents new neurons from forming. And you're already losing thousands of neurons every day, but no matter your age, you can build them as long as you keep learning, you exercise, sleep well, and eat the right foods. Preventing it from being lost is half the battle, and making new neurons is the other half. Now, I'm sure you have noticed on days you don't sleep well, your memory is poor. Now, this doesn't mean you can't drink any caffeine, but what you need to know are your limits. And of course, everybody has a different limit. And when you drink caffeine excessively, you will notice that your blood pressure will increase. High blood pressure decreases brain blood flow. And if you're trying to protect your brain, you have to protect your brain blood flow. Anybody who tells you that having a high blood pressure is acceptable probably also has low brain blood flow themselves. They don't appreciate the significance of having an abnormal blood pressure. Half of America has an elevated blood pressure, and about a quarter of those people are between the ages of 18 to 39. So by the time people are 60 and over, they now have a 75% chance of having high blood pressure. And only 1 in 5 adults have their high blood pressure under control. Under control means a normal systolic blood pressure, which is below 120, folks. So many social media guru showing their blood pressure over 120 does not have their blood pressure under control. And when you cut off blood flow to your brain, whether you're vasovagal or having high blood pressure, you will damage your brain. The higher your blood pressure and the longer you have that abnormal blood pressure, the higher your rate of dementia. Obviously, you get more damaged cells. And this is why if a caffeinated beverage causes you to have high blood pressure, you probably shouldn't be drinking that caffeinated beverage. Now, if that beverage causes you irregular heart rates, you probably shouldn't be drinking that either. In some people, just 1 cup can cause them to have arrhythmias, which will decrease their blood flow to their brain. Blood is literally the only way your brain gets nutrients and oxygen. 5 minutes, that's all you have when you cut off that blood supply. My friend says coffee makes her anxious, and this is because caffeine can stimulate cortisol production, the body's stress hormone. Chronically high cortisol levels can shrink your hippocampus, your memory center, and weaken serotonin-producing neurons in the Raphe Nuclei. By the way, the Raphe Nuclei is not one neuron, but a group of 7 clusters of serotonin-producing neurons located along the midline of your brainstem. And each nucleus is typically only about 1 to 3 millimeters in diameter. The total length of your Raphe Nuclei system extends several centimeters along the brainstem. And these nuclei, they regulate your mood, your learning, your memory, your motor function, your pain reception, your sleep, as well as your autonomic nervous system. And much of that is through your vagus nerve. Atrophy or degeneration of the Raphe Nuclei has been linked to depression, anxiety, and dementia, such as Alzheimer's dementia. And serotonin dysfunction in these nuclei disrupts your mood, your sleep, as well as your cognitive processes. Like everyone else, I made a lot of mistakes as a young adult, but the one thing that I did right was to protect my sleep, especially the night before an exam. That's probably why I did so well in school. But my career choice is not so conducive for sleeping. So now I'm trying to make up for it by making sure that I can get to bed before 12 a.m. whenever possible. It's not always possible. Believe it or not, I never got in the habit of drinking coffee. I actually don't like the taste of coffee. But instead of coffee, I actually drink a cup of green tea every morning. But I have to drink it at the right time. Green tea has a third of the caffeine in coffee. But nevertheless, it still has caffeine. And for a caffeine-sensitive person like me, it will definitely keep me up all night if I drink that green tea past 12 p.m. Unlike most people who drink coffee for caffeine, I don't drink green tea for the caffeine. I drink it to protect my brain. Green tea has L-theanine, an amino acid that promotes relaxation and enhances focus by modulating serotonin and dopamine balance. L-theanine has been shown to increase alpha brainwaves, which are linked to improve learning and creativity. Green tea also has catechins called EGCG, which protects brain cells from oxidative stress. Have you ever seen a rusty nail? That nail has undergone a ton of oxidative stress. Would you ever use that rusted nail? No, because you know it's going to fall apart. So if you want to keep your brain from falling apart, you have to maximize the antioxidant to counteract oxidative stress. And green tea is just one of several ways to do it. Green tea is the #1 drink in Asia. And guess who has lower dementia rates than the United States? Now, do we need a randomized controlled trial? Or can we just look across the ocean and copy what they're doing right? Some studies suggest that green tea boosts dopamine and acetylcholine neurotransmitters involved in memory and learning. Have you ever wondered why they always pair caffeine with sugar? I mean, essentially, these are two legalized drugs that have the whole nation addicted to spend more money. And we all know sugar is bad, right? But do we know why it's bad? After all, the brain is dependent upon sugar to survive. Even if you eliminated all your carbohydrates, your liver would still make sugar to feed your brain. And if it didn't, you would pass out. But the sugar that you're eating has several problems. First, the surge of sugar is just too much too quick. And second, it's actually the wrong kind. You'll notice that after you drink your coffee or energy drink, a couple hours later, you're crashing. So this simple sugar is just too short-lived to power you throughout the day. In addition, you're actually getting cheated. Your body can really only use half that sugar. Table sugar is 50% glucose, which your brain uses, and 50% fructose, which is a liver toxin. This is not the same as fructose in fruit. There's so little fructose in fruit that your gut microbiome can handle a lot of it. In the United States, each person eats 70 pounds of table sugar a year, and half of that is fructose, which can only be processed by your liver. They're not eating fruit, folks. They're eating table sugar. And unfortunately, your liver doesn't know what to do with all that fructose and traps it inside as fat. Excessive fat in the liver makes you insulin resistant, which decreases your tolerance to eating more nutritious carbohydrates like whole grains and fruits. So whenever you're drinking the chemical sucrose, you get the poison called fructose. Now, earlier I explained how eating is very stressful for your body because you have to move muscles. But eating requires you to make enzymes to digest it. Have you ever found yourself irritable when you're hungry? And that's because a lot of your calories that you eat disproportionately goes to your brain, which needs a constant supply of energy. It literally takes 20% of your body's energy, even though it only makes up 2% of your body weight. So when you're not eating, you're not giving the brain what it wants. But making energy comes with a price. And when you burn calories, you make an energy molecule called ATP, as well as free radicals that cause oxidative stress. These free radicals, they damage your mitochondria and your brain cells. Now, fortunately, your brain has a way to take care of this if you give it the right antioxidants. Now, many people understand that the brain can use both fat and sugar as energy, but they don't give it antioxidants. Fat molecules generate more ATP than sugar molecules, but you also make more oxidative stress. When you're more metabolically active, you challenge your brain cells with more damage through oxidative stress. This is another reason why I eat antioxidant-rich foods throughout the day. Antioxidants are found abundantly in plants, and you know a plant has antioxidants when it is colored. When you eat white-colored foods, they don't have any antioxidants. And this is another reason why I would never eat white sourdough bread, especially with butter. But I have white sourdough bread because my family likes to eat it. So I compromise. And I chop up some heirloom tomatoes with some basil, sprinkle some garlic, and then I drizzle balsamic vinegar and a hint of extra virgin olive oil. Mix that all up, put that salad on top of a toasted sourdough bread, and that is a delicious bruschetta that you can buy at an Italian restaurant. So I basically turn that junky carb into an antioxidant-rich food. And it's so simple, I'm sure you can make that at home too. I try to keep all of my foods high in soluble fiber to feed my gut microbiome. And this is why simply taking a probiotic doesn't feed your friends, and it doesn't promote a healthy gut. It's like seeding your lawn and then forgetting to fertilize it. You're not going to have a healthy lawn. So when you eat prebiotics, the soluble fiber, remember the gut bacteria makes short-chain fatty acids that stimulates your own cells to make serotonin so that you can have a good bowel movement. Now, in order to effectively make serotonin, you also have to eat foods rich in amino acid called tryptophan. But tryptophan tryptophan can cross your blood-brain barrier to support healthy levels of serotonin in the brain. There's no tryptophan in butter and white bread, but chickpeas, nuts, cocoa powder, they all have tryptophan and other essential micronutrients that support serotonin production. Now, in terms of serotonin production, I would actually rather eat white bread than butter. Do you know why? Because after you digest the starch, it enters your bloodstream as glucose, which stimulates the release of insulin, which then shuttles competing amino acids competing against tryptophan, like leucine and isoleucine, into your muscles, which then allows more tryptophan to enter your brain. Tryptophan shares a transporter with other large neutral amino acids, like tyrosine, phenylalanine, valine, and leucine. So this means that you're eliminating the competition for entry into the brain by lowering the blood concentration of other amino acids. So this then makes it easier for your brain to get tryptophan, where it can be converted into serotonin. Now, without that rise in insulin, less tryptophan can actually get into your brain, resulting in lower serotonin levels, potentially putting you at risk for mood disorders. And that's another reason why I don't like the ketogenic diet. Now, remember, this isn't medical advice. So if you're struggling with mood disorders, please see your own medical doctor for help and to examine your diet to make sure that you're optimizing the right foods that will promote your mental health and physical health. Now, in people with insulin resistance, your cells become less responsive to insulin, meaning they don't absorb glucose and amino acids as efficiently. And this impairs the transport of amino acids, especially branched-chain amino acids like leucine and valine, into muscles. And as a result, amino acid concentrations in the bloodstream can remain elevated, increasing levels of competing amino acids due to high insulin resistance, which may reduce the amount of tryptophan that your brain can access. This then can lead to lower levels of serotonin in the brain. But unlike your muscles and fat cells, your brain doesn't require insulin to take up the glucose to use it as fuel. But like I said, insulin still plays a critical role in regulating your brain metabolism, neurotransmitter function and energy, homeostasis, and whenever you have insulin resistance, the brain does get impaired. It gets off balance. And this can actually happen even if you don't have frank diabetes or high blood sugars. Turns out people have high glucose levels, obesity, high blood pressure, high blood lipids, high free fatty acids. All these can reduce your brain's responsiveness to insulin because these conditions lower the brain's insulin receptors. Now, I think I've just pretty much covered most of the chronic diseases that are so prevalent in society. And millions of Americans have one or several of these abnormal states. So anything that reduces insulin receptors in your brain cells will make your brain insulin resistant, reducing insulin transportation into those areas of the brain. And this is why you don't have to have diabetes or have high blood sugars to have dementia. Insulin also inhibits the phosphorylation of tau, the protein that forms neurofibrillary tangles, which is a neural pathological hallmark of Alzheimer's disease. In other words, insulin resistance is associated with higher levels of abnormal proteins. And when you have insulin resistance, your blood flow changes in your brain. Blood vessels are supposed to expand and contract depending on your needs. When you stand up, your blood vessels need to contract. And when you lie down, they need to expand to keep your blood pressure constant. When your blood pressure fluctuates, this impairs perfusion to your brain. And this is because insulin affects blood flow partially through affecting other molecules like nitric oxide and endothelin-1, which actually have opposite effects on your blood vessels. The more nitric oxide, the more open your blood vessels are, and the higher your endothelin-1, the narrower your blood vessels become. Turns out people with insulin resistance also have less nitric oxide and higher endothelin-1 activity, which ultimately results in vasoconstriction or reduced blood flow. Blood flow is key to health. And if you do not have blood flow, that will exacerbate everything, including serotonin, glucose, and lipid dysfunction. This is why it's important to have normal blood pressure, blood sugar, lipid levels, and serotonin levels, because they will all affect your blood flow to your brain. And if you want to learn how to best improve your blood flow, watch the next video.